This video chart presentation of International Stem Cell Corp. It's listed on OTC Markets as an OTCQB company, meaning it's fully reporting with the SEC. See, the stock's had a real nice climb from down here, bottoms around 17 cents, all the way up to 41, clearly defined as resistance point. Stock pulled back, as some profit taking clearly set in off the peaks. That's pretty normal, but it found a support level right near the 200-day moving average. Now it's back on the climb over this last week, ultimately making a higher low. We'll take a look at some Fibonacci retracements in a minute, but back over top of the 50-day moving average. I think it's worth keeping an eye on now to see if it's going to establish a longer-term upward trend. There's the MACD retracement, just now dropped another bullish cross, 12 passed through the 26 EMA, and that slightly higher low in the MACD is basically what I'm talking about establishing a longer-term upward trend. So now let's look for that MACD to pop back through zero, get back on the bullish side of things to signal even greater strength of the overall trend. Similar look to the PPO. See the ADX has cooled off right down around 20. That's a pretty neutral reading. Again, it's not a bad thing as the stock retraces. Now I just look for an upward move in the ADX to signal that the direction's gaining strength again. It's a nice look to the MFIs. All three components that I use push back through 50. Tells me people are paying higher prices for the stock over the average periods. See an overall upward trend being established in the accumulation distribution. Shaking money flow slightly down in the red. That tells me over the last 20 periods, selling pressure has been outweighing buying pressure. But of course, stock did take on a pretty good sell-off. But again, overall, going back to the bottom, want to see continually higher lows. And of course, in the grand scheme of things, you want to see it over top of zero and holding over top of zero to show that buying pressure is remaining dominant. CCI registering a 56. Again, it's a barometer of current price versus past prices. And by registering over zero, that tells me the stock price above its current 20-day mean. Full still. Sharp upward move tells me momentum is coming quickly into the play. And the trick's a very slow, very smoothed out indicator. I'm looking for that upward trend and that hold around the zero, or preferably above the zero mark, to show that the trend is bullish. RSI is after the retrace, push back through 50. Again, that tells me bullish momentum is in the play. Now I'll be looking for it to hold that 50 mark, because you can see right through this area. When that's happening, there's a lot of bullish momentum in the play, and the stock took on a lot of upward pressure. So I always look for that RSI to hold over that 50 mark. Now I mentioned Fibonacci's, so I'll throw those on here real quick. They're from your high point, 41, down to the bottom, we'll call it 17.5, as that was a pretty clear support level, and it was the start of the move. Now Fibonacci's are just like any other indicator. I never use them completely alone, but they are a bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy because a lot of traders do use them. You can see in this case, stock price bounced right off of the lower end, the 38% mark, and then went back on the climb. Now it also shows that the 61-62% mark is starting to serve as a resistance point. You can see how that actually ties right in with an area of static resistance. So I think with that in mind, I'd watch for this 33-cent area to be an area of resistance. And if it can break through it, I think the odds of it coming back and testing this top end resistance at 41 are greatly increased, as there's not any static resistance really in the way, and there's no Fibonacci marks in the way either. I think another thing to note is the 50-day passing through the 200-day moving average. That's called a golden cross, generally regarded as a very bullish move. And what'll start to happen here is this 200-day will start to roll upward. And I'd look to that 200-day as well as the 50-day to serve as some dynamic support levels for the chart. I'll go ahead and throw this back in as a bottom side support I'd be looking for from a static perspective. And I think that actually runs all the way down to about 24 cents. But the stock price at 32, that's a little bit too far off for me for a stop loss. I'd keep my eyes more on this 50-day moving average and a little bit of short-term support that comes in play right through that 30-cent mark. Now volume slipping back a little bit as it's challenging this resistance at 33. And what I'll be looking for to end this week and going into next week is see if we can see some taller volume bars to try and blow through that resistance. Even if it pulls back a little bit, establishes a slightly higher low, and then makes the rotation and runs at it, that's when I'm going to look for a volume surge, because I want to see as much momentum be built as possible to blow through that resistance to increase the likelihood it'll come up and challenge these old highs again. Because looking at this chart in the longer term, that's the type of thing I'm looking for. Upward trend off of this bottom, continued higher lows and continued higher highs to reinforce the idea of this being a true bottom in the play and the chart going into a truly strong bullish trend. Those are the type of things that I'll be looking for in the International Stem Cell Corp chart. But as always, it's merely my interpretation. Thank you for watching and trade smart.